In the 1960s, a strange corpse encased in ice was revealed to the public.
Its eyes were absolutely human.
A 6-foot-tall human-ape species billed as the missing link.
He could smell the rotting flesh.
This is just getting weirder and weirder.
Under investigation by Ivan Sanderson and the FBI, the body vanished.
For my money, the body is still buried on the farm.
For the next 6 decades,
I've heard strange creatures screeching.
encounters with a similar beast occurred,
I couldn't move. It was like I was made of stone.
with powerful hands and razor-sharp fangs.
You find mutilated deer in the woods.
Continue in the Minnesota wilderness.
Oh my God.
They ate these ribs.
Could the same undocumented species
I only see 2.
Where's the third one?
be terrorizing the region to this day?
Did anybody else hear that?
In the mid-20th century, scientist Ivan Sanderson set out to separate fact from fiction. He investigated hundreds of frightening encounters with unexplained creatures around the world.
Our next guest tonight is one of the world's leading naturalists, accumulating material for some 30 years.
As the founder of cryptozoology, he built the most extensive archive of unclassified creatures on Earth.
There seem to be a lot of these creatures on our continent, in South America and Africa, and all over Asia.
But following his death in the 1970s, that archive disappeared. Until now. Armed with modern tech and Sanderson's lost research,
We need to take this and compare it to what's in the archives.
a team of experts will reinvestigate his unexplained cases using up-to-the-minute research and predator expertise.
I've never seen wildlife do this.
There's nothing like that should be doing that here.
Holy.
Can Sanderson's files lead to an incredible new insight and take another creature from myth
Did you see that?
to reality?
The Minnesota Wild Man might be one of my absolute favorites because of all the twists and turns and physical artifacts. So let's just go over a few of the details.
The wild man is a primate species with dark fur, large toes, and a distinctive ape-like face. Sightings of this creature date back centuries to Eastern Asia, where the Chinese government has documented this creature, collecting eyewitness accounts, hair samples, and footprints. It's believed to be a descendant of Neanderthal, but some speculate it could in fact be the missing link between man and ape.
So we have an uptick in sightings in a location that was one of Ivan Sanderson's largest cases he ever got to personally investigate in Minnesota. Where Frank Hansen killed this alleged hominid.
I visited a man named Frank Hansen to investigate a frozen wild man corpse. Hansen claims to have been walking through the woods whilst hunting for white-tailed deer. Suddenly, he heard a strange gurgling noise through the trees. He continued his hunt, and in the middle of a small clearing, he came upon 3 hirsute beasts tearing at the insides of a freshly killed deer. In an instant, Hansen realized they were some type of ape-like man. When one of the creatures charged at him, he pulled the trigger. He then collected the carcass.
He then encased it in ice, showing anyone that wanted to see it. It was essentially a roadside attraction.
That is when Ivan got involved. He came and saw it for 3 whole days at Hansen's private property. He mentioned that it had an extremely large toe, that it has almost like an auburn colored hair, reddish orange in tint. And then he started taking pictures of it. You see it sitting?
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot when the ice started to melt. He specifically said that he could smell the rotting flesh, which is not something that you would get from like a dummy. Ivan Sanderson actually believed that the wild man was a possible hominid primate within our lineage.
In 1968, 1 month after visiting the specimen, Ivan Sanderson went on Johnny Carson and proclaimed the missing link as found. He then notifies the FBI, asking them to retrieve the body from the Hansen farm for further scientific research. In February 1969, the FBI descends on the Hansen farm to retrieve the corpse, but are turned away. When they arrive again with a warrant 2 months later, the body is missing, replaced with a plastic replica.
So we actually have correspondence in here between Frank Hansen and his lawyer, and the lawyer advised him to get rid of the body.
Wait, that's in there?
Yeah.
That's never been seen before.
I know.
Can I see that?
Yeah.
Having this information explains the timeline of the missing body, right? And Ivan theorized that it was possible that Frank Hansen disposed of that body somewhere on his farm.
Not only that, but we also have a recording of a witness who claims he saw digging machinery at Hansen's farm shortly before the body disappeared.
I was coming home on the bus, and there were 2 black unmarked cars in Captain Hansen's front yard with a backhoe out there on his property, and it was shortly after that this thing came up missing.
There's no way back then they had the technology to comb that large of a property for something so small. But we do. If there is a burial site on that property, we will find it. Even after 50 plus years, there's a chance the remains will contain enough DNA to solve one of the most bizarre mysteries Sanderson ever encountered. But this story gets even bigger. And we have the site of where he supposedly saw the wild man.
And so this would have been the place where he shot him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, there's been an uptick in recent sightings in that surrounding area.
And that lines up pretty well.
Remember, it was like 3 of them surrounding a group of dead deer on the ground from hunting them? So with this particular case,
There could be multiples out there still breeding.
it's possible that if we go out there, we might be able to get new clues or new pieces of the evidence that nobody ever got before.
I think we have to go to Minnesota. This wild man case is complicated, so we're splitting the team up based on our strengths. Tracy and I are going to go try to track down what may have happened to the wild man body. Because if Sanderson's theory was correct, Hansen buried an actual missing link on his farm. Justin, Troy, and Brittany, they're going to use Sanderson's map to locate where Frank Hansen first spotted the wild man.
Is this the creature who bridges the gap between man and ape? If so, he's the greatest anthropological find in history. The face is his most startling feature, both to anthropologists and anyone else. A gruesome appearance, which is enhanced by a considerable amount of blood.
This forest literally has about 4 million acres, and parts of it have not really been touched or evaluated. The account location that Frank Hansen did have his account is in one of those pocketed areas that most people just commonly don't go to.
Superior National Forest is located in northeastern Minnesota. The expansive area includes over 2,000 lakes and rivers. But Brittany, Justin, and Troy will head to the Whiteface Reservoir area of the forest, where there's 1 million acres of remote territory that is virtually unexplored.
Ivan Sanderson believed that this could possibly be a type of missing link to the hominid genus. However, there was also still speculation on the table that it might also be a type of ape.
Now, there are primates that live in cold environments, but not in North America.
Japanese snow macaque, their body structure is going to be different. They're built for that cold weather.
But could it be a type of relic that people thought went extinct? Like, we think everything goes extinct, and then they're like, oh, we found it. This thing shouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah, I just can't see a primate living in this type of environment. So I want to look at every angle before I believe that there's a mysterious Neanderthal from the dinosaur age. That's just my opinion.
Arriving at Whiteface Reservoir, the team meets with a local hunter who had a bizarre encounter with this creature.
Nice to meet you,
Nice
Troy.
to meet you. Hey, Troy. Nice to meet you. I'm Joe Sturgis. I'm a hunting guide. I've been a hunting guide for approximately 30 years. I've seen just about anything. Not much surprises me, except for the unknown. My experience happened several years ago. I'd done a hunting trip with some guys. They'd left, and I was making myself some dinner. And next thing you know, I smelled a terrible smell. like nothing I've ever smelled out here before. I look up and I saw the biggest, nastiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Its eyes were absolutely human. It wasn't like an animal that I've hunted where you don't see any real thought behind it.
Yeah.
This thing was thinking. It was surveying who I was and what I was doing.
Like full observing.
Just full observing
you.
You know, maybe 30 feet away from me. And we looked at each other for about 20 seconds. I didn't hear this thing even come up on me. And then it left as quickly as it came, just as silent.
Did you notice a neck or did it just go head to shoulder?
Well, the hair was very thick. It was like someone popped a head right on top of some shoulders, more than anything else. The muscles were just massive.
Okay.
A very pronounced brow, almost like the Cro-Magnon pictures you see as a kid, you know, when you're going to school. Big brow, round head, very human-like features.
So what about color? Did you notice anything?
Yeah,
color?
you know, mine was blonde.
What?
It was more of a blonde. It wasn't
Like
dark.
blonde?
It was like not
blonde.
Yeah, about 3 shades darker than her darkest blonde.
Blonde, almost like a deer color?
It was almost like a deer color.
What season were you at?
This is deer season, November.
November.
Were you out for deer that day? Did you have the deer with you?
Yep, white-tailed deer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Do you think he came for your food?
You know, I want to say, yeah, maybe, but I think it was more interested in what I was doing. A couple things went through my head. Number one is, I'm gonna die. I couldn't move. It was like I was made of stone.
Are we somewhere in the vicinity?
If you go right down that way, about 2 miles,
So we're really close.
you're very close.
Joel's account happened literally within this area and very close in proximity to the original Frank Hansen kill site.
All right, let's roll these tents.
With the eyewitness accounts and Sanderson's map, this is a perfect spot to start our investigation.
The Hansen kill site is reportedly in a cedar swamp 2 miles inland from the campground, an area that's also in the middle of recently reported sightings.
Guys, if we keep moving and we see a creek and it starts to move in, if we follow that, it should take us up towards the cedar swamp based off the map.
"250 miles away, Charlie and former intelligence officer Tracy Walder arrive at the location of Frank Hansen's farm, that last location where the body was seen, and some believe it to be buried.
Hello there.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mike Waltz. I've lived in the area forever. This farm here, my brother bought in '94, and I bought it from him in 2017. Before that, Frank Hansen owned it. Right here in this corner is where I saw the wild man of Frank Hansen's for the first time. I've grown up next door for my entire life, and we rented the farm, had cattle here.
What do you know about Frank Hansen? What kind of guy was he? What was he like?
He was kept back to himself, a little extravagant with what he did, but he was a great neighbor.
If we think we found something, would it be okay to maybe dig around a little bit?
Sure, that's fine.
Hansen, when he owned the property, it was a fully functional farm, just like we're seeing today. Look at that. So based on the photographs of Hansen's original exhibit, that's the original sign.
Oh, wow.
The current owner of this farm has been very generous, giving us free access to look for a body that may or may not be here. And I have special training that can help us find it.
As a former FBI agent, Tracy trained at the agency's infamous body farm.
It's a research facility, but it's also used by law enforcement. And you can basically see bodies in various states of decomposition in various atmospheres. One of the fastest decomposition rates is when bodies are submerged in water. This is a farm in Minnesota, but on this farm there's lots of different microclimates. There's kind of rolling hills, there's ponds, there's tall grass, and those help me evaluate where I'd like to look for this body.
There are so many ways to get rid of a body here. This is the area where he would burn things and bury things.
It wouldn't be a bad place to dispose of the original wild man's body.
I think one of the best things to do, and they use them today all the time in order to find people, is to use drones. I think you could cover a lot more ground, a lot more efficiently. So let me call some colleagues and see what I can do.
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't see any cedar swamps yet. I mean, we're swampy,
It's
but
gotta
it's
be,
not.
well, it was 50 years ago. Things change. We have to be realistic about the terrain.
Back in Whiteface Reservoir, Brittany, Troy, and Justin trekked through the dense cedar swamp noted in Hanson's account, in search of the kill site marked on Sanderson's map.
And it's real thick back there. In the area that we're in, we're gonna find vastly different predators. So I'm gonna be looking for any sign of any wildlife and try and narrow that down to kind of get to a suspect, so to speak. And that could be anything from what kind of food's available, what the climate's like, and then on top of that, we'll look for scat, fur, tracks, dens. You have to take all of this information, and then you have to dial that down and try and get as close to possible as what you want to find that needle in the haystack.